This is the Mental Mettle Podcast, where we explore how to forge mental toughness and resilience in every aspect of life. Welcome, I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF certified professional coach with a background as a teacher, basketball coach, and athletic director. But my journey took a dramatic turn in 2020 when I survived both cancer and a stroke. Those experiences shaped my mission to help others grow stronger in every facet of life. Today, I work with athletes, coaches, educators, and anyone who believes that positive mental health is both achievable and a personal responsibility. This podcast is dedicated to helping listeners develop a positive version of toughness, one rooted in resilience, focus, and growth. Whether you're looking to excel on the field, in the classroom, or in life, this is your space to learn, grow, and take action. Join me on this journey, and together, let's forge your mettle. All right, metalheads, it's a little bit of a different episode here on the Mental Mettle Podcast this week. So we're going to talk about hope and the power of hope, the importance of hope. And it is Christmas time. It's December, so hope it's the season of hope, and I want to dive into that a little bit. And my guest today is Derek Gordon, and he is the men's ministry coordinator for Pathway Ministries in Peoria, Illinois, which is a homeless shelter. He works at the men's homeless shelter, and he and I were our wives are friends, and I've gotten to know Derek, and we were talking over dinner the other day, and we got talking about hope, and just, he had a lot of passion over the word hope. And I thought, man, I like talking to people with passion and who are into ideas that are around mental health, and nothing we talk about today is going to be athletic based, which is why it's a little bit of a different episode. But I think that athletics are a great mirror for the rest of life, and it's very intertwined with our life. So we can definitely find, anytime we find anything to do with mental health or mental toughness or any of these ideas that branch out from it, like hope, I think it's easy to connect it to it. So I just wanted to have this conversation with Derek and do that. And as I think about hope, and the importance of hope, I started analyzing my life and some of the things that have gone with me. And you know, I got in a pretty dark hole for a while after my cancer, after my stroke, after trying to recover and having to learn how to speak again. And I talk about this ad nauseum on this podcast quite a bit. So I don't want to dive into it too much. But I mean, I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear, but I never completely lost hope. That's because I had such a powerful and just such a good support structure in my wife, my family, my friends, and my relationship with Christ. And so I never really lost hope. Now, I probably should have leaned into it a little bit better. I was always hoping it would go faster than it would. And it didn't. And that was part of my problem, is that my hope was I didn't have the patience that I should have. But I feel like that's a different situation than losing hope altogether. And I can't imagine where I would be and how I would be if I got to the point where I didn't have my relationship with Christ, if I didn't have my wife, I didn't have my family, if I didn't have that support structure around me. I cannot imagine what it would be like to go through things like that and not have that. And when I talk to Derek, this is the type of people he deals with on a daily basis. People that walk into his mission that are now homeless and have, obviously, there's probably been some mistakes along the way, but not all of it is their own doing. Life hits them really hard, and there's a danger of completely losing hope. And Derek, at his position as the men's ministry coordinator, he sees his job as instilling that hope with these guys and how it's a long road ahead and there's a lot of things to do. They work at Pathway Ministries. It's using hope and using their relationship with Christ to help them get out of poverty. So there's a lot of secular things there, but they know, and Derek knows, that it starts with their relationship with Christ and building, and that is such a powerful place to build hope. And it's just a great conversation here with Derek. And again, you're probably not in that situation, but I think that there's a lot to be taken from it. And I think the more that we lean into our relationship with Christ and our families and practice gratitude and vulnerability, that as things go wrong for us, we don't lose hope, right? So hope is something that we can definitely nurture even before we are at a place of despair where we need all that hope. And let's not kid ourselves. We aren't the best, as even though we are not in a terrible rock bottom situation, we don't always act like it's not, right? So we tend to make bigger deals out of things than they really are. And we see the world from a negative lens sometimes. And I think that is something that hope can help us build a better person, a better future, a better relationships with everybody around, and kind of project that onto others. And a lot of it starts with hope, and you got to believe in that you can do things. And I'm getting kind of deep here, but it's a really cool conversation with Derek. So I'm going to let that start, and we'll just have that, and I'll talk to you a little bit on the other side. But for now, enjoy the conversation with Derek Gordon. All right, so here we go. It's the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm here with my guest today, Derek Gordon. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing great, Matt. Glad to be here.
So I'm going to preface a little bit here. So today's episode, and you know what I do, and to my listeners is paying attention to, it's mostly sports stuff. Occasionally I dive into other realms and do different things because sports is it encompasses so many things. And Derek and I have gotten to know each other because our wives are good friends, and we were having dinner one night and we got talking about hope. And I just, sitting there, just talking, and I thought, and the more we talked, I thought, well, it's a good podcast to talk about hope, and this be the season of hope. And I just thought it was going to be a really good conversation, and I think it is, and I'm excited about it. And as I told you, what I want to do anytime I do a podcast, and before we get, the first thing I like to do is get some credentials. So whenever we talk about hope, I want all my listeners to be like, well, okay, I want to talk about hope, but what does this guy know about hope? Why are you a guest here about talking about hope? And so just introduce yourself a little bit about your background, what you do, and how that pertains to hope, because I'm excited about the conversation.
Well, our whole life is hope in some form or fashion, just a matter of what we hold on to. So I am currently, for 6 years now and running, I am at Pathway Ministries in Peoria, Illinois, and I run the men's downtown shelter. The employees, the 90 to 105 men in the building, all of that. So, how do you even qualify for something like that? I'm not even quite sure. Maybe some ups and downs in your own personal life. I come from a financial background, but during that financial background, I did a few things wrong. I spent a small amount of time in prison, and so I can actually get into the whole thing, how that weaved together to hope, and kind of gave me the credentials to be right where I'm at. Right. So,
well, you and I have had enough conversations, that I think the Lord, I don't know. It like, if you're not figuring out the things that have gone wrong for you, if you're not figuring out how they're working for you, you're missing a huge opportunity to help people.
Right. and I think there's a part of a naturalness to us all that we want to help people. It's just that we don't know how. It's messy, it's ugly, it's everything, right? So it's a lot of fun. But as far as credentials, I think the credentials are more in the heart than really anything. And that's what I learned over the past 6 years. I've learned so much about myself, so much about people, and it's been quite the experience. I can remember back early on in my Christian walk, taking spiritual gift test, and I'd end up dead last on empathy every time. Right? I'm the classic man. Rub some dirt on it, man. Come on,
Yep.
let's go.
Quit being a baby.
Fine.
You're fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Get up. It's gonna be okay. So, and over the past 6 years, I would say that I have become quite empathetic. So it's been an amazing journey, and how much it has helped me personally, but almost how I get to do that and help others, right?
Yeah, it's funny about empathy. It's like there's a quote I heard a few years ago that has really stuck with me, and I don't even know where it came from, but it was the idea that empathy is the path to innovation, in the sense that you have to, right? As soon as you hear that, it makes sense, because I have to get out of my own head. I have to see things from other people's perspective, and then with the background that I have, but seeing it from somebody else's perspective, maybe I can get new ways to help people change things, do things differently. And I really believe that quote.
Yeah. It moves you from a different direction and gets you out of yourself,
Yes.
right? It
Yeah.
start getting into this bigger narrative, I guess you can say.
Yeah. So talk to me about it. And when I talk about credentials, I love that you said it's from the heart, because when I talk about credentials, I mean, I'm talking about as much actual like letters behind your name. I'm talking about like the things you've been through, right? Because when we're talking about mentality and we're talking about the sort of things like hope and things like that, it's more about what you've survived and what you've done and what you've experienced that are the credentials that I think are what's important.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. It's up until so many years ago, you know, it because I mean, still to this day, people come into my office and they start looking on the walls for the credentials because they automatically assume here's this middle-aged, well-dressed white guy. He's where's his credentials? And usually
Yeah.
my credentials is usually Illinois Department of Corrections. So, but also military background, working on the floors of Chicago, always been an intramural gym rat. You want to pick up a ball, I'll play it. Right. So, so I've always had to be like in the mix of something, so I think it's kind of funny that still at 53, I'm still in the middle of something, action, so it kind of, it has that nature, that feel, but it's there's a different type of reward, right? Besides trophies and bank accounts and things like that,
Absolutely. And I want to get into that. But tell me a little bit about what your day to day, when you're talking about being in the action, what does your day to day look like at the shelter? And I'm guessing not every day is not the same. I'm sure that's part of it. But what is what is it you do there, and just what is it about there?
I think the main part of my role there is I keep things kind of moving together, because there's always, when we're dealing with individuals and guests that have high levels of PTSD, mental health problems, throw an addiction in the middle of all that, and you gotta always remember that in these moments, their emergencies are large in their heads.
Yeah.
it might not be so much to me that I'm like, really, this is what you're worried about right now. But so, a typical day could be as soon as I drive up and get out of the car, somebody's running towards me with a personal emergency, or an ambulance, or a staff member is dealing with, because there are certain individuals that, because we try to help everybody, so there are certain individuals that can't even come inside, but might come in and get a sack lunch or something along those lines. And typically in the morning, I tend to run into I think it's funny how I start my day with the higher volatile individuals, but so really it's just a matter of, I try to start walking in and bringing an atmosphere of comfort, an atmosphere of kindness, because it takes time, and even from a staff issue, when somebody's yelling at you, it's really hard to keep your cool until you realize they're not really mad at you.
Yeah, right.
So, as Patty has witnessed on many occasions, somebody running to me as soon as I get out of the car.
Yeah.
And then really, most of my days are spent just kind of keeping things flowing, talking to individuals, making sure they're doing all right, making sure staff's doing what they need to do. We like to keep a very clean mission. And so
now I can assume, and this is what I got. I'm curious about it, but I can assume your goal of it's a mission. It's a men's only mission, right?
Right.
That it's your goal is to get them out of the shelter and out of the mission. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I'm just trying to get my hand, like they come to you. It's I don't want to say rock bottom, but it's close. It probably is, right? And you're trying to get them back on their feet and getting out of there.
That's right. And they come in all different types of situations. Getting out of prison, having no place to get out of prison and go to. I deal with a lot of that, and actually through that, I developed another program that is designed to take guys who have been in prison and segue it back into secular society, and how to navigate that. What because a lot of guys find Jesus in prison, right? Okay.
Well, I say that. What I don't know. I'll take your word for it. But I'm right.
I mean, how many people? That's one of the funniest things I try to tell people to understand is, in the midst of our struggles is usually where we cry out to the Lord. We're not crying out to the Lord when we're cruising down the California highway in our Porsche, right?
Right.
So, it's usually in desperate times, and so but it's really, I got a little bit off subject there, but
no, you're good.
Things to do is take these guys who just got out of prison 10, 12, 20, 25 years. The longer they've been in prison, the easier time it seems to me to help them out. But just what it looks like to walk with the Lord outside of prison, because it looks different in prison. So we got a program for that. So you got guys coming in on parole. We got guys whose house just burned down. We have people who just got out of the mental institution. We got people who are just coming out of the trap houses of Peoria, but usually at the point when they walk in the door, they've got nothing. They've lost everything. So they're broken. And
it's funny when you were talking about them, you said that like the problem they're coming at you with is like, you're like, it should not be that big a deal, but that's how, like, I mean, that is the way the mind works, right? You get fixated on something and it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's all perspective and it's empathy, right? Like if they believe that it is a big deal, then it's a big deal. And it is a big enough deal. Yeah. And it's going to affect their day to day, and it's going to affect their emotions, and it's going to affect their decisions. And you can't just say, oh, that's not a big deal.
Right. And you got to think about it. if it's your first time walking through the doors of a homeless shelter, that's not you're not having a good day. The first time I meet you, it you're not having a good day. So it's kind of my job to put your mind at ease, right? So just hey, you're safe.
I gotta imagine it takes a little bit of vulnerability to make that decision to come into the homeless shelter for a lot of men.
Right, and actually that kind of drives us to. I also think it's a moment of hope. I think is it? I mean, do they feel like it's in that moment? Is it a moment of hope, or is it a moment of desperation? Welcome to Mental Mettle Coaching, where our mission is to help you learn to thrive in the face of adversity, not just survive it. We are passionate about empowering you to live, play, and work with a resilient and spirited mindset. Hi, I'm Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF professional coach and keynote speaker. My background as an athlete, basketball coach, teacher, and school administrator has equipped me with the insights that resonate deeply with the schools, teams, athletes, and coaches I work with. However, it's my personal journey through anxiety, cancer, and an ischemic stroke in 2020 that truly brings authenticity to my presentations. While learning to speak and write again, I also pursued and earned my ICF coaching certification. Now the practices I embrace are more than theoretical concepts. They're a way of life. Developing a positive mindset is within reach for all, but it requires self-awareness and the repetition of intentional activities. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we'll guide you, your staff, and your students on this transformative journey. Together, let's forge your mettle. So in that moment when a guy finally decides to come in, I mean, is it a moment? I mean, you say it's a moment of hope, but I would feel like it's a moment of desperation. And I'm trying to figure out, like, I guess you need, I don't know, hope. Desperation is when you need the hope. But you tell me, like, you tell me what it's like when they come in.
Well, I would, yeah. I mean, the consequences and the things for the actions or what's going on in life, and so yeah, there is a certain amount of desperation there, right? Or something, a motivating factor because of what's going on in their lives. But at the same time, there's something that kept them from jumping off the bridge.
Right? That's fair. You're right. Because there are other options.
There are other options.
I mean, you haven't. Yeah.
So I kind of look at it that way. Like, they have something. There's still a will to live. There's still a will to drive on, right? So, and that's actually what started my whole little walk I've been doing with hope and exploring that word. Where is this innate drive? Where does it come from to I'm going to hope the sun comes up tomorrow and everything's going to be better, right?
Yeah. So because now that we've talked a little bit about what you're doing and you are in a position where you see the absolute need for hope, right? Like you're talking about people at their worst. I want to dig into what you're talking about there and what you've kind of started to learn. I know you've done some research and talking to people about hope. And there's an old saying that somebody said to me the other day about hope. And I don't work with the type of people you are. So I'm working with, athletes, teams, coaches, something like that. And when I mentioned the word hope one day, a guy, he threw me this military line of hope is not a plan. Right. And I countered back and I said, that's true, but I don't ever want a plan that doesn't involve hope, because you have to have hope, right? So I'm trying to figure out where's that hope come from, and how can we use it, and how can everybody use it? And I just want you to dig in on, even if you monologue here, but I want to hear about it.
Well, I actually to start the beginning of the thought process actually started with me thinking back to Adam and Eve. Um, I was thinking about, they were in the garden, they were walking with the Lord in the garden, living in, you know, just pure glory of God. And next thing you know, they make a mistake and they're exiled from the garden. And there's these two
Hmm.
big angels put there. You can't come back in. You're gonna, and so what I started to think about was what what were Adam and Eve thinking when that happened? Was their first thoughts? We got to get some food, honey. We got to get some shelter, honey. And I really started digging into that. And really, what came to me was what our Lord has just removed himself from our presence. Surely he's a good God. He's a loving God. One day he will restore us.
Yeah.
And that was the hope. So I started thinking, like, is hope an emotion? Is it emotion? Is it is hope there to, in the brand new world full of sin, was hope there to counteract it? Did God give us this emotion of hope to counteract this whole fallen world of sin that's now going to fall into chaos and those type of things at that moment? So, that's kind of where the journey started. It was,
I mean, you went all the way back.
yeah, I went all the way
No,
back.
no, but it's exactly what you said before, though. I mean, if we could, this is going to be terrible symbolism here, but if we're talking about you're talking about driving down the California Coast Highway in your Porsche is the Garden of Eden, right? When things are fine, we don't feel like we need the hope, right?
Right.
But we don't get that. Nobody gets that opportunity to always have everything be fantastic.
No, no, and those are dangerous times, and those are, for me, those times where, you know I get overly comfortable. I mean, that's where there's this over time, this hope and gratitude, gratitude, hope, gratitude, hope, hope, gratitude. It just intertangles itself so deeply that you know hope is oddly nurtured by thanks. You know,
Oh,
uh, you
yeah,
know, and so
yeah.
so then we get into what am I giving thanks for, and so I've come to the point now that I am back to being pretty comfortable in life, and I don't have any major complaints, and but I have to keep my focus on at least the gratitude part because that keeps me connected to hope and just constantly, reminding myself that, now it's just from a standpoint of all my hope is in the Lord,
Yeah.
and saying the gratitude to the Lord, but that takes years.
It does, and what I love about gratitude is that gratitude, when we practice enough gratitude, obviously makes us feel good to practice gratitude, but it makes us realize that we are reliant to others and we are reliant on the Lord. And so in practicing gratitude, it is connected a little bit to vulnerability. And the
Mm,
fact that, man, the more I practice this gratitude, it makes me feel good, but it makes me realize where I would be without other people and where I would be without the Lord. And that opens you up for vulnerability, which vulnerability is a great fertile ground for hope, right? And so I'm with you. You said that the gratitude, it feels strangely connected to hope, but I get it and I completely understand it. And I think that when you practice that gratitude, even when things are going well, when then inevitably things don't go well, you've already got the practice on what you need to get out of it.
right. It, there, it, Job's only response after the devil fleeced him was, "Blessed be the Lord."
Yeah. I mean,
Wasn't it? He was giving thanks. He's like all this, but I still have God. I still have the
well,
Lord.
and that's,
And so
I say the same thing about most of Paul's mentions of gratitude, which he says it a lot, are written from prison,
right,
right? And I don't think that those things are unrelated. And I think that those are, it's something that we need to pay attention to, and that you have to be able to practice gratitude at all times, not just when things are good or just when things are bad. It's just
right.
all the time.
Yeah, it definitely helps
So,
take the sting out of life, I suppose.
yeah, so you and I get it. How do you start to instill this idea into the individuals coming into your mission? Yeah, that's the different level, right?
Uh, yeah, that's the nurturing. I mean, you got to nurture hope.
Yeah.
And you got to keep things very simple. I think it's not just common for the men that come into the mission, common for everybody, is
Oh, I agree.
expectations. Um, you know, I got 150 things that got to be done for me to get here, and I'm gonna worry about all 150. And when I don't get all 150 done, I'm gonna collapse and fall right back to where I was. So, it's more of lowering our emotional expectations of others, but also lowering our expectations of ourselves. And let's just focus on the one thing that we need to get done. Let's focus on the one thing that we need to get done. And then we'll start worrying about the next thing. We don't need to handle 10 things right now. Let's just start getting some wins, you know? So, let's start
I
stacking some W's and, then we can start catching some momentum, and then we got more things to give thanks for and more, so
I
kind of,
heard a yeah, I heard a comment recently from Jordan Peterson, and he was talking about the problem with a lot of people is when they're trying to get out of a hole or trying to do something, they look way too big.
yeah,
And you're looking way too big, and you have to start with small. And I'm with you when you're talking about being simple and looking for that W. That when things are really bad, your W might be getting out of bed.
get out of bed and
But
make your bed. I don't know.
right. But it's like, but then also, once you have that W, acknowledge and recognize that W so you can stack another W on top of it.
You got that right. Yeah,
And that's where we want things to be too big, too much, too fast, and that is not realistic. And I don't care where you are or what. I don't care if you're in a homeless shelter or wherever you are. It doesn't happen that fast.
well, yeah, that's part of what concerned me, and it wasn't even the fact that I work in a homeless shelter that I started looking at this word hope. It was the desperation I see at Walmart. Going out to
Right.
dinner. I mean, the things have changed. People, the glimmer of hope, just in gratitude, and those things kind of just seem to be slipping away. Because, I think the big thing is gratitude and hope takes the eyes off of ourselves for a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and how's us looking outward, and so, but we live in a society now, world that has us looking inward and it's all about ourselves.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can handle
Yeah. So give me some, when you talk about nurturing these guys and getting them to see hope and looking at others and gratitude, what's it? And I know you're in somewhat of a chaplain position there. What does it look like to mentor these guys and do this? Is it like through one-on-ones? Is it through church services, or what's it look like to actually mentor and guide these guys?
Well, it takes a couple of people, a couple other people to come alongside helps. And it well, first things first, with most people, trust, right? You got to find a reason to believe that I'm steering you down the right path.
Yeah.
And so, it's a relational thing more than anything. It's forming relational bonds, and so, and that usually just comes from The funny thing is when we're dealing with broken grown men, I tell them I don't have time to sugarcoat our conversation. I'm going to come at you. This is not going to be very good. You're not
Yeah.
going to like what I'm initially have to say to you, but I'm not saying that to you because I am not trying to beat you up. It's not the military. I'm not trying to break you down and rebuild you because, dude, you are broken. I don't need to break you down anymore. But here's the problems. I wish we were back at, the Christian camp, teen camp around the campfire singing Kumbaya. But dude,
Hmm.
we're in ICU, man. You know,
Yeah.
we're in a time now where anything but the truth is going to hurt you.
Mm.
So, we usually just start having some pretty real conversations, and then you start helping them, start them get the things they need, start getting their IDs, their social security cards, start teaching them how to, not have all your important paperwork in your pocket. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I
always,
know, but you say, but I mean, I laugh at that. But if you've got nothing, I don't know where else you put it, right?
yeah, you keep it in your pocket. That's why you lose it all the time.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
Well,
that's funny is that, and that's one of the ways I nurture 'em, because I mean, let's be realistic. When sometimes when people have taken their lives to a point where you got to walk into a men's homeless shelter, you know, it, it takes more than one try. It, you know,
hmm
everybody's on their own thing. I mean, I love for every guy to come walking in, but I mean, there's guys I still help that as long as I'll work there, I'll probably see them. I hope not, and I'll try every single time, you know. And then there's just times where it's a guy's fourth or fifth time, and for some reason that was the time, you know. And so part of
hmm
the things that I do is guys come and go all the time. We keep a file of all their important paperwork. A lot of times a guy will come back in with nothing, and I'll be like, dude, you know what I got? I got your social security card or birth certificate.
Yeah.
You know? So
So
it's
yeah.
just knowing, when you know somebody's got your back, you're willing to be coached, right? You have to have that.
hmm
If you don't feel like
Well,
this
that's that.
person, gonna go into battle with you, and I always tell them, I can't carry you. If I could, I would, you know. Um, you got to take the first step, and I'll take it with you, but I can't get out in front of you. I can only go as far as you go, and I'll go every step with you, so
Yeah.
that's kind of how it looks.
So what's the you're instilling this hope, you build the trust, you instill the hope, you're trying to practice gratitude, you're really, preaching to these guys and doing stuff. What's the is there a point where you start to see that, man, they're getting it and you feel like they're on the right path and you can like when do you see that hope start to take hold and actually work?
Um, it, Sometimes for some guys, you get them to sit down and just start understanding budgets and saving money. From a very secular standpoint, the thing is that I have seen, and I can say this, is without that personal relationship with Jesus Christ, it's going to be hard. You
hmm
can reach a certain degree of success and you can get certain far, but at some point it seems like to maintain that long-term success, kind of that is the glue, right? I mean, and the thing is I help, because we are a Christian organization. It doesn't matter whether you believe in Christ or not. I'm gonna go all the way with you. And so,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna tell you why I'm going all the way with you. You're missing one
Right.
thing, bro.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, and that's interesting. I love that you share, you help everybody, but you're going to let them know why you're doing it. And I think that's a big, it's an important piece of it to minister
yeah,
and to help at the same time.
I don't, every time a guy makes it, it's not like I get a 10% sign-on bonus or something, you know?
No,
This is
no, I agree.
I don't have so many guys that make it worked into my contract that I get a bonus. that's the genuine part. They know that I don't get anything from it, but they know what I get from it. I mean, I think I gotta by now. I'm starting to build a pretty good trophy room in heaven, which is awesome because I sure need it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the, and they know that, and that's the relation part, and that's me being real and them being real, and I'm real with them about my mistakes, and even because it need to understand that there's a better day, there's a way to it. Gotta be a little bit easier than yourself. Everything's dying on me. My headphones. Matt, what am I doing today? But
I, I don't know.
so um,
So
yeah,
what? Talk to me about what you see. Like, what's the message that you pull from working at the homeless shelter with these individuals? How do you translate that to what's the message that at its bare bones? How do we take that message to people that aren't that far down? You get what I'm saying? Because you're talking about the people, there's a lot of despair to people walking around Walmart, right? But what's the message that you could take from that and give?
it would be a message of hope. A message that things will get better. Things are better if we keep our eye on that. Because I don't know. I don't think people realize how close they are to being in these type of situations. I don't think there's too many degrees of separation between walking into the homeless shelter and wondering if you're gonna, if they cut off all your credit card bills, are you gonna make it next month and you get laid off, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
you could be in a,
do you see that it's been a real shortfall for some of these, like they were just fine a little bit ago, and then like everything, the bottom fell out for them like quickly.
yeah, I've seen it. I mean, spouse dies,
Mm.
um, something along those lines, a fire, lost a job, um, fell into depression, didn't get back out of it. Next thing yeah. And the good, sometimes that's a little bit easier to work with. But if you've never been depressed before, how do you know how to handle depression?
Right.
Especially severe depression.
Yeah, and that's that. That takes us back to that idea of empathy, right? You're like, oh man, you're depressed, just snap out of it. But
Right.
it's I mean, it's a medical condition that can like happen a lot faster than you think.
No, it's incredibly difficult, and that's one of the, I mean, if you strip the drugs and the alcohol away, and then severe mental health, the schizophrenics and things like that away, um, you know, the toughest thing that I see is when a guy comes in and he's severely depressed. He just ends up stuck. He can come, he can survive in the homeless shelter, but he's going to sit in that day room all day long, not get anything done. Might even have the resume that can get things done, but for some reason or nothing, something stopped. And actually,
mhm.
those are the guys that are difficult because I think they're the ones that are not quite sure where their hope is. You know, they
Yeah,
just say, okay, I'm in this situation. I'm just going to sit here. I'm alive. It wasn't enough for them to go so severe, but I'm alive. But I don't know what to do.
yeah.
Right. And that's the big thing is, a lot of times people become frozen in fear of not knowing what to do. And that's
Well, that's the thing about, and that's the other thing about gratitude, Derek, is that gratitude trains our brains to find positivity. And if you're not practicing gratitude, the human condition or the human, you know, default is to find that negativity. And that's and it's easy to say that whenever your spouse dies, your credit cards get laid off. It's easy to find the negatives because they're huge and they're big. Um,
right.
but it doesn't change the way out, which is not to focus on that, just to focus on what's positive and what can I do next to get moving forward. But that's really hard to do.
Well, see that, and that's I mean, fear, hope, they're the complete opposite of each other.
Yeah.
I think, and that's so sometimes we got to start with gratitude, because gratitude is what's going to point us to the hope, right? And so, but when we're stuck and we're frozen and we're overcome with fear and anxiety, it's really hard to find the hope. And that's where we go back to the point. Yeah, you start with the gratitude, and
Yep.
start looking for the small things to be thankful for. Things will go.
I
We have to change our perspective.
I know this is corny, but the old thing about the devil and the angel on your shoulder.
Right.
And and I think a lot of times that is seen as like, whether or not temptation and sin versus righteousness, but it also stands for things like the difference between fear and hope, right? Whenever the Bible talks about us to have hope, well, when you say fear is the opposite, well, then if God wants us to have hope, well, then who wants us to have fear?
That's right.
And it's sometimes it's that simple, and it's that black and white, and we have to see it that way.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. It's a lot easier for us to be less effective in life if we're scared, right? And so,
It is.
that's why it's at the end of the day, that's why Christianity and Jesus, for me, through my walk in life, it's the only one that connects that. It's the only one, I can wake up in the morning and say, I'm victorious. I've
Mm-hmm.
won. I'm playing from a winning. I play every day, every hour, every minute from a winning position. If I really want to, if you really want
Yep.
to take a 10,000-foot view at it, right? So
Yeah.
if you can start getting your mind wrapped around that and keep your hope in that He is the victory, that your hope is in that, life becomes a whole lot easier. You're
Yeah.
playing from a whole new
Well,
position.
and it does, and that affects our mindset when you're talking about these guys coming at you with these big that they think are big problems, and they're not. They are no different than most of us whenever we think we have these huge problems in our life and these things that are like such a big deal. But when you look at it from that view that you just had, it's not a big deal. It's just not. It's not.
It can't be.
And that,
If God is
yeah.
good and He is our hope, it can't be.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I
It's
agree.
just this thing doesn't want to do it.
I've just really enjoyed this conversation and being able to look somebody talking about Derek or from about hope from a perspective of despair, and somebody at the where these guys, but it's still applicable to all of us. So as we're getting a
Yeah,
little short on time here, what's anything?
we had several
What's the
times.
last question? Well, I know we could keep rolling, but what's the question I didn't ask you that I should have? And I asked that so that if we didn't talk about it, then it's your fault, right?
Right.
And if yeah.
I mean, there's probably a ton, but when we're talking, I guess the one would have been, what do you think what do you think those that come in the doors really want? What do they want in their lives? And,
What do you have an answer for that?
the same thing we all want: emotional comfort and peace.
Mm-hmm.
To not be thrown all day long by our emotional beings and broken beings that we are, because that's really at the core of it, the problem.
But
Emotional
I think
consistency.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying there. But I think one of the things that has to happen is you have to change your perspective on where that emotional consistency and hope and all that comes from. right? Because you think, oh, it has to come from me having this job or making this money or doing that. And you need to change your perspective that that's not where it comes from.
Yes. And, and we got to learn the word contentment.
Yeah.
Over
Yeah.
joyful, over sad, no good. Let's just be content.
Nope. Be content. Be content. And that seems so boring sometimes, but that's
pretty
where
awesome
that is what it
when
is.
we're there.
So awesome. Well, Derek, it's been great talking to you. This has been a good conversation, and may you always keep hope, because I think that's something we all got to have.
Amen, brother. Amen. Well,
Amen.
I appreciate you.
Well, we'll keep in
listen
touch.
To my crazy ramblings on hope.
Thank you. Oh, it's great. I love it. I can talk about it all day. I just hope somebody else wants to listen to it. So we'll see what we get.
Them Packers. How about that? Let's do that.
Amen. Let's go. Amen. Let's go Bears. All right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Derek.
All right. Bye.
Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they can still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great. They're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Mettle Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website, get started on the journey to a more confident, successful athlete with Mental Mettle Coaching. Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness, using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Thomann, at Mental Mettle Coaching. Hope you enjoyed that conversation about hope with Derek Gordon. I know I did. It's going to make me think a little bit about, every time I have a conversation with somebody, I end up talking about something, and I'm always catching myself and being like, I'm saying that, am I really doing it? And just the importance of practicing gratitude, practicing vulnerability, helping others, and how that instills my hope. And again, I'll say it again. Hope is not a plan, but man, you can't have a plan without hope, because I think hope is so powerful, and it's such a positive thing, and it's using that gratitude to help train our brain for what is possible and what is good, and that is again what Christ wants for us. You're going to see that all throughout the New Testament writings of Paul. Just the power of gratitude and hope, and how they are so important on everything, and you don't have to be at rock bottom to be able to need them. And so I think that's just the message here, is to continue to practice all of that gratitude and turn it into hope, and hope into helping others and helping the world and helping spread positivity. And I know it's all pie in the sky type stuff, but I think that's exactly what it's what the Bible asks us to do. That's what Christ asks us to do, is to practice that hope and believe in that. And know that, again, I love what Derek said. He's like, I'm already fighting on the winning team. How can I not have hope? And that's powerful. So, man, I'm going to keep rolling. It's not quite Christmas time, but that's my message for you as you move forward into Christmas time, is to practice that gratitude coming out of Thanksgiving. Don't stop just because Thanksgiving's over, and start practicing that gratitude, practicing that hope, and just help it lead into this beautiful time of Christmas, and be thinking about how you can foster hope in yourself and spread positivity and the word to others. And I hope you're able to do that. So thanks as always for joining me. I'm going to get back into some sports stuff next week, but I don't mind diving sideways a little bit once in a while to get this. So it'll be back into sports next week, but thank you so much for always. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. It really helps spread the message of the Mental Mettle Podcast and all the things that I'm trying to do. And I hope that you will. So this has been the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. Always remember to forge your metal. Thanks for listening to the Mental Mettle Podcast. Don't forget to tune in every week for more insights and strategies to help you forge mental toughness and resilience. This podcast is brought to you by Mental Mettle Coaching, where we are driven by a passion for sharing knowledge and experience that empowers others to play, live, and grow with confidence. Our mission is to instill a resilient and spirited mindset in our clients, enabling them to confidently face adversity and actively seek new challenges for personal growth. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we offer individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses. Whether you're an athlete, educator, or professional, we're here to help you unlock your potential and thrive in every area of life. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and always remember to forge your metal.